Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cabbage Patch Soap. My name is Laura, and today we are doing a prepper soap. So, for people who like to, um, prep and save for, doomsday type things coming up or whatever, this is a topic that was requested. I do want to say that definitely you don't want to try this at home, even though literally, if you're a prepper and if you're ever in a like post-apocalyptic type situation, you literally will be doing everything from home. But I am just saying that because I do not want anybody to get hurt trying this without do your own research basically. Excuse me, make sure you're safe and all that. So I also want to get out of the way. um, yes, I have been sick for a while, and I apologize. I am for being absent for so long. The recovery has been really slow, and part of it is just what's lingering is some exhaustion and a cough. So, um, there were days where I thought, oh, maybe I can start my lives up again today, and I got up and couldn't stop coughing. So there's no way I can, communicate to you guys if I'm coughing, or I was just so exhausted that I couldn't focus, and it's not safe to make soap like that. So what I'm thinking, since I am feeling much better, um, but the recovery is slow, I may stick to just one live a week, so maybe just on Mondays, until the cough is gone. Usually, a cough for me will linger several weeks, so maybe do that, or we'll kind of play it by ear. But I do want to come back and continue doing videos for you guys. So let me just say hi to everybody. Hi Lorna, welcome, and hi Ian, welcome. And this idea was actually Ian's, so so let me just explain a few things about prepping. If you want to a lot of his preppers focus on things like food, ammunition, maybe textiles, things like that if they need to make clothing. But something that gets overlooked maybe sometimes is how are you going to keep yourself clean. Um, if you want to be able to make soap, you can. My suggestion would be to maybe stock up on some lye, keep a little bit extra on hand because it's extremely difficult. Well, it's easy to make lye, but it's difficult to calculate your lye solution, and this is where you would have to do research. So let me grab the container real quick. I left it on the shelf. 1 second. Lye should last a long, long time. Um, when I've tried researching how long does lye last, I get mixed results. But we're looking at probably years. So this is like a plastic container with a screw top lid. These are the types of containers that I would keep my lye in. They're airtight. If I'm going to store it for a while, like if I was to purchase several small containers like this, then I would keep each container in an additional like Ziploc type bag or some sort of additional layer, because what age really doesn't seem to affect the lye. What affects the lye the most is moisture. Once the lye gets wet, it's going to make it harder to work with. It's going to clump up. Um, if too much moisture were to get into this container, you could open it up and it would literally be just a solid brick. You'd have to break the bottle to get it out, and then it would be incredibly difficult to measure. Hi, Stacy. Welcome. Yeah, Stacy, I'm feeling a little bit better. Still have a cough, so I apologize if I start coughing during the video. It's just a lingering one of those annoying, things that just doesn't want to go away. Okay, so that's the first thing, is storing your lye safely, airtight containers, maybe doubling up on them. Another way to get lye is with hardwood ashes. You need to use a hardwood and not softer woods because the resin in the softwood prevent it from, reacting with the fats and making soap properly. So hardwood ashes, and then what you would do is you take those ashes, and there's a couple different ways of doing it. You can either put the ashes in something and have water, like put water in it and have the water trickle out the bottom, kind of like you're making coffee, but do not use a coffee maker. I'm just like that example of water coming in on the top and dripping out the bottom, and the water that drips out the bottom will be your lye solution. The other method would be put all the ashes in a pot and boil them, let the water cool down, and then skim all the water. The ashes will fall to the bottom, And then on the top, you'll have all the water. Just carefully get it out without disturbing the ashes. And again, you'll have a lye solution. So there's a couple issues with this that you have to be aware of. One is that in either method, it's difficult to calculate the amount of lye that's in the water. So that's in the solution. You don't know for sure how much is in there. You don't know the strength of it. There's probably a way of doing it. You could research this a little bit more and see, but the everything that I looked up just said, oh, sometimes the soap will be stronger and sometimes it won't be as strong, and use the strong soap for laundry. But it's like that's to me seems kind of dangerous, which is why I would say instead to just hold over some lye until you can. That will hold you over so you can practice with hardwood ashes and see if you can come up with a system that's a little more accurate than that. I think this is why a lot of old-fashioned lye soaps had the reputation of making your skin like being bad for your skin, is because there'd be no way to really calculate the lye that was going in there. Um, we do have more modern tools now and things where if you have access to them, you could possibly use those to measure the amount of lye in the water. I don't know because I prefer not to go that method because I don't feel it's safe. There's a lot of room for error, and I would much rather just use the method that we have now, available to us, which is measuring the lye and measuring the water and knowing exactly what's in your product. Um, the other issue is that if you're going to be boiling ashes, you need to use a pot that does not have aluminum, because lye will react with aluminum and create a poisonous gas, and that's kind of the opposite of what you want to do when you're trying to survive. Um, so you need to use something like stainless steel. Um, this is a lot of times what I keep my lye water in, these plastic containers. Plastic degrades over time. So if you're in a true like prepper situation where maybe you can't get plastic, or certain types of plastics, there are some plastics that can't withstand the heat, because when you first mix the lye with the water, it becomes very hot, and it can melt a lot of plastic. So you have to be careful what kind of plastic you're using. There's a lot of other things like that going on. But you can use glass, but again, glass, it can get very, very hot. So you want to be very careful, because you can actually break the glass container that you're mixing your lye water in. But glass lasts, as long as it doesn't break, it can last a lot longer than plastic. So what I recommend is start with very cold, like ice water, and mix your lye with that. It won't heat up too much, and you won't have to worry about it damaging your glass. And third option is stainless steel containers. A lot of people use stainless steel containers on a regular basis to mix their lye water. And those are great because they don't break as easily as glass. They last longer than plastic, and you can use them, for a lot of different things. And it can be easily, well, I don't know how easily, but you can, use it for other stuff besides just mixing your lye. Although I tend to keep my lye and soap tools separate from anything else, just so there's no risk of accident of somebody using something that had lye in it for like, food or something else and getting hurt. So anyways, um, really the only difference between making soap as like a prepper, um, like in a situation where you don't have electricity, and like now where we have electricity, the really only difference is going to be um, not having access to like a digital scale, maybe, unless you have batteries and things that you can run a scale, or if you can make a scale that's accurate to ounces and like tenths of ounces, or grams. So aside from that, if you can't, whether or not you can get a scale, I don't know, but it's going to be the stick blender. So normally you see me put the stick blender in and run that, and it mixes the soap sometimes within a couple of seconds. Um, if you do not have access to electricity and electronic tools, you won't have that luxury. So you literally have to mix this by hand, and depending on the oils you have on hand, it's going to determine, um, excuse me, it's going to determine how long it takes for your soap batter to mix up into soap bars. So um, I recommend, while you have access to electricity and internet and everything, to look up and prepare a bunch of recipes. I would say to start with um, a couple of recipes that have a mixture of hard and soft oil. So a hard oil is an oil that's solid at room temperature, and a soft oil is one that's liquid. So for example, um, a soft oil would be olive oil, almond oil, things like that. Hard oils are things like coconut oil, palm oil, lard, and if you're going to be, raising animals and butchering them, you can use the fat of those animals. And so that could be like a good source of getting fresh fat, because most oils, if they're stored properly, you can most of the time get at least a year out of them of storage, but eventually they will go rancid. So you want to also look at that and see what is the shelf life of these oils, because if you're storing them and for the future, you want to make sure to be using them up. Buy oils that you would probably normally use anyway. Like if you like to use coconut oil in your cooking, prep and store a bunch of coconut oil, because you're going to be using it up. It's not going to go rancid on you. Before you need it. Need the stores that you have. Another thing is that soaps that are made primarily of hard oils, like if you have 100% coconut oil soap, those are really good for cleaning dishes, cleaning clothes, things like that, because it really cleans really, really, really well. Unless you use a lot of superfat, it's not going to be very moisturizing. It's going to feel really dry on the hands. Whereas if you have a more balanced, like a better, like say, mix of oils, so like with mine, I've got palm oil, coconut oil, olive oil, and castor oil, and that gives a more balanced soap. So it's cleansing without being drying. And if you can prep and save all those oils, then great. But I don't know what your space situation would be. I know that's always an issue. So I would say prep the oils, save the oils that you're going to be using anyway, so that you can use up your stores and nothing will go rancid. Um, and But yeah, I would recommend either calculating in a high super fat for soaps that have hard oils, or coming up with a balanced recipe, as long as you can use the oils up so they don't go bad. Um, and then what you're going to do is you're going to do just like normal, mix your oils and your lye solution, but you're going to mix by hand. So like I said, that's the major difference. I'm just checking to see if you guys have any questions here. Okay, thank you, Ian. Yeah, I'm glad this is helpful. I'm just going to adjust my headset really quick. Okay, um, so whether you decide to store your lye in plastic containers, you can even use things like this for small amounts. Or if you're going to make it yourself, just remember it has to be in a non-porous container. It needs to be something that can withstand the lye. So it has to be a type of plastic that can handle the lye, or it needs to be glass or stainless steel. And you're going to need to protect it from moisture at all costs. So you're going to probably want to put this on the top shelf, so that if something floods, there's no water getting to it on the bottom shelf. You want to keep it stored in plastic, like double wrap the container if you can. Um, and also label it. Label it very, very clearly, because you don't want somebody taking it down thinking it's sugar or salt and having a very bad day. Um, and then for the lye solution itself, I have this on a towel because it's very hot. I don't want it to mark my table. Actually, it's cold now, so we don't need this. So for the lye solution, what I do for most of my soaps is you measure the water first before you add the lye. Always the water first, always then the lye. If you're going with making it from ashes, it's already going to be combined, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you're doing it the other way, where you have the lye separate, you have the option of adding something to your lye solution. That would be, you'd measure the water first, and then you can add whatever you want to it. You can add honey, you can add sugar if you can get it. You can even add like cane sugar, like straight from the sugar cane. You can add fruit juice. You can add milk. You can add, whatever you want. I like to add sea salt and then let it get dissolved. That way you have the benefit of the sea salt in the soap, but you don't have like scratchy salt particles in there. Same thing with sugar. Let the sugar dissolve, and then add the lye last. And then, you can also do it with ice. Like you can do like half water, half ice. That way you can dissolve the sugar and salts and honey and things like that in the water, add some ice cubes to make up the rest of your water weight, and then add the lye. So if you're using a glass container, for example, that's a really, like, do half water, half ice. That's a really good way of not risking, breaking your glass containers. If you're doing a lye solution through the ashes, you can still do this. You would just have a higher water concentration. So what you would do is, you would get a separate container that has just water in it, dissolve your sugars and salts and other additives in there, and then you can add that to the soap. You can either add it to the lye solution from the ashes, or you can, after you mix the lye solution with the oils, you can add it to that soap mixture, to the oil and lime mixture. your soap will just take probably, I mean, depending on the concentration of the lye that you started with, it may take longer to mix your batter into soap. And if it's a very weak solution, it may not come together. But it just, like I said, I don't know how you would properly measure the lye solution, if you're using the ashes method. There are some suggestions I've seen online. I can tell you, they suggest um, 1.5 to 2 gallons of water to 10 cups of ashes. Um, that is what one suggestion. It's a farmingmybackyard.com had. I've not tested this, as I've said, because I feel I mean, you can do it, but it's not as accurate and safe as having, lye separate and adding it to the water. Um, and there's one other point I wanted to make with this that has escaped me. Um, one moment, let me fix something. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get my chats to work again. They're showing up blank. Let me just fix this 1 second. It'll do this from time to time. Oh dear. Let me try again. There it goes. Okay, that's much better. All right. Um. Okay, so the other option would be to just add those ingredients straight into the soap batter. You'll feel the grittiness from the sugar and salt, but that might be good to help you get cleaner. Um, oh, that's right. That was what I was forgetting. Okay, so as far as like water, what kind of water to use when you make your soap? You can literally use any water. But I use distilled water, so there's no chance of like minerals or anything going into the soap that could maybe go bad later, or just like maybe like it might not go bad, but it might like cause like spots in the soap that'll mess up the design, things like that. But that's not like the soap works fine. It just doesn't look as pretty. That's what I use. You can use rainwater. Rainwater is very popular. Um, that'd probably be the second best, as long as you're collecting the water like out in an open area, not where the water is like dripping off your roof or dripping off like trees where it's like collecting debris on its way down. But clean rainwater is a very good like second best option. And then after that, if you have access to like a stream or a lake and you filter that water a little bit, that's fine. If you're just making the soap for home use, it really doesn't matter. You don't need to go through all that. You can use water, you can use tap water, you can use anything you want. If you don't have, in a prepper, situation, you're probably not going to have um, running water, but you can get it from a lake, river, the rain, whatever. It's not going to matter because, again, more than likely, you're making the soap so that you have soap, not because you're trying to make pretty soap. So that's really, really the only thing. So as long as the water you're using doesn't have like strong chemicals in it, then you're fine because you don't want additional chemicals going on your skin. Um, okay, I'm going to put my gloves on because I forgot to do that. And what I'm going to do for this soap is I'm going to demonstrate how you can mix it together by hand without any electric tools. Hi, Bad Gamer. Welcome. What is beaver fever? It's something that I probably should know. A Canadian thing. Oh, I mean, that makes sense. Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, I've never soaped with that, so I couldn't tell you. Maybe there's a way of filtering that out. Canadian thing. Okay. Oh, well, the soap, so when soap goes through saponification, first of all, it gets extremely hot. And secondly, the chemical, like cooking, in quotation marks here, of the soap would kill off probably germs like that. Like those sorts of things are going to die, and the property of soap anyway kind of damages the cell walls of viruses and things. So I really don't know if that would survive the soap. And even if it did, if it was like alive in the soap, like you're going to wash with it, and then that's going to kill. I mean, I don't know. As long as I don't like, even if you ate the soap, I don't think, but you shouldn't eat soap. I grow a beaver tail. Yeah. Yeah. Keep it going with the keep going with the jokes, and you're giving me good content here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. I have this is the face mask I use, by the way. I think I paid $3 for it, and it's been going good for like 5 years. I got it at Harbor Freight. You could probably get it at Canadian Tire because they sell everything but tires there. I don't know where else you could get it. Walmart sells them. You could use just regular old goggles. I use this because it also protects my face, not just my eyes. And I've had a couple of times where it was a close call. So Ian does always have good content. This is very true. I'm going to go ahead and put this on. I have to take my headset off for that. So give me just a second here. Okay, so now, so this is a light water. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat. Okay, so I realize that as a prepper, you're probably not going to have pretty colors like this to put in your soap. You can put clays in your soap to color them. In fact, that might be to your advantage if you have a way of like refining some clay, um, and it's like a beneficial clay, and you add a little bit of it to your soap. It'll help it come to trace or get solid faster. You want it to do that because this is going to be a workout for your arm. This is probably a bad soap to make, coming right off of being sick because I'm still really physically weak and. I'm guessing I'll be able to do this. We'll find out. Um, and the other thing I'm going to do to cheat is I'm going to add this fragrance. It's called Lotus. And this smells really good. It's a really nice white musky floral. Smells great. Um, but the reason I'm doing this is because florals typically accelerate trace, almost always, which means that this soap is going to go from a liquid to a thick soap batter, hopefully very quickly, because I do not want to be mixing for very long. If you have a way of refining anything, like you can do, I know there's like some way of like distilling like rose petals and stuff to get the rose oils off of them. Same thing with lavender. Those lavender and roses are pretty common. If you have a way of getting some sort of fragrance oils out of those, you could add them to your soaps. Another thing you could do, which may help, I don't know, but if you have like a soft oil like almond oil or olive oil, you can do what we did with the lavender buds and put them in a jar and just set them in the jar and leave them for like a month or two, and just keep shaking the oil, and you'll infuse that oil with the lavender, or whatever flowers you have that smell nice. That may help accelerate the trace. I don't know. Um, but it is an option. It's something you could try, um, and you would also get the a little bit of the fragrance from the flowers. And basically, if you want to make the soap nice and you have something to spare, you have flowers that you're not going to use for anything else. Maybe you can't eat them. They're kind of useless to you, but you can go and gather them up. You can add them to your oil, and then that way they're not wasted. It's just another way of kind of maybe raising morale if you have a soap that has a light scent of flowers or something. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Mint. Yeah, mint is very common. You can use mint and soap. Um, I'll warn you, um, if you use like menthol, um, and there are certain things you can add to soap that just, I always say for external use only. So basically, there's certain areas of your body, if you're cleaning, be very, very careful because they can be very sensitive to certain mints, and things like menthol is a big one. Menthol might be easy to get, but that will irritate certain parts of the body, so just be very careful. And mint may or may not, but yeah, I've people use mint and soap. It smells great, especially around Christmas time. We make like peppermint soaps and stuff. Yep, yep. And you can put botanicals in this type of soap where it's cold process or even hot process. You can add botanicals. So you can add the flowers and the mint leaves and everything straight into the soap. The only thing is that they will turn brown over time because it's just the reaction that the plants have with the lye. But it's not. They're not going bad. Like it's not making your soap rancid. It just doesn't look pretty. That's all. Um, also, this what we're doing here is cold process. You can do what's called a hot process, where if you have a pot, you make the you can make the oils. You warm up the oils in the pot, and you could add the hot lye solution. So this, I let it cool down to room temperature. But you could just add it hot straight to the batter, and you just mix, 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 and it'll start to gel and solidify. And then you just keep mixing. It'll turn into like I used to make this all the time. That's what I started making. It'll come to like what they call like a Vaseline stage, where it looks kind of oily and shiny. And you just get it to where you want it, and then you just plop it into molds. The reason I stopped making it is it looks really, really rustic, and a lot of people wanted the pretty swirls and things like that. So I just went ahead and switched to cold process. But yeah, that is one thing you can do. But I think for prepping, I mean, you'd have to, have some sort of source of heat. So you'd have to waste like firewood to do this. I don't know. It depends on how well stocked you are. You may not want to do this. The benefit of doing it this way is it doesn't take any like external like heat source or any other fuel. There's nothing you have to do to this. Just everything's room temperature. You just use it. um, the only downside is you have to wait a few hours for the soap to set up. Whereas with hot process, you just once it's like hot glue. You know how once hot glue gets cold, it's hard. Well, that's the same thing with a hot process soap. Is once you put it in the mold, it starts to cool down, and as soon as that block of soap is cold, it's ready to go. You just cut it up and you can use it. Although it still benefits from a cure time. You still want to let your soaps cure if you can, but if you're desperate for soap and you need it like right now, hot process is the best way. You'll have usable soap within a couple hours maybe. But this soap, usually I leave it in a warm place for about 24 hours, and then we cut it. Um, 18 to 24 hours is about, depending on how the soaps you, or excuse me, the oils you use and things, because that all plays a part, right? So if I made 100% coconut oil soap, I would need to cut that within like 2 or 3 hours. If I make this, which has coconut oil in it, but it also has like olive oil and some other soft oils, um, it takes longer to firm up, so I can't cut it for several hours. So it just depends. You could still make the cold process soap, but with coconut, and cut it quick. So it just depends on what your situation is. Let me see here again what you're saying. Yeah, Stacey, don't eat it. Yes, don't eat the soap, even with mint in it. No, how did you get in here? 1 second. We need to get this guy back out of the room. 1 second. Yeah, Ian, a killjoy, exactly. Um, yeah, this guy needs to go in a different room because he was not supposed to be in here in the first place. Okay, so he's being on the other side of the. You too? How'd you get in here? Oh my gosh, this is like the worst day ever with these guys. Come on, let's go. Put him in the other room, please. He is not supposed to be in here. I want to know how they got the door open. Okay. Well, anyways, don't banish. I have to banish the kitties. This is not a kitty safe environment. This is. Yeah, and the problem is those cats want to help. They'll be putting their paws in it and sniffing around. I don't want to. I really don't want to take cats to the vet right now. I don't have the energy. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're going to use this pretty green, shiny stuff. By the way, this is an ancient container. I usually just refill them with packets. Like I get the little packets and refill it instead of buying more jars. This is called emerald green mica from Crafter's Choice. Mica, technically, you can get it naturally. You can mine it from the ground, but really doubt anybody's going to be wasting time like that for soap. Instead, what you can use, I mentioned flowers. You can use like um, certain roots, like beetroot. If you can get a hold of indigo, indigo makes it pretty blue. Um, you can use clays. Clays would be really nice because unless you're growing a garden that requires a lot of like clay in the soil, you might not need all that clay. You could add that to your soaps. And like I said before, adding clays would help the soap come together faster, which you want if you're trying to mix this by hand, because you don't want to be mixing this forever. So you can see it's got a really pretty like swirly green. Okay. Where'd it go? Here it is, the fragrance. We're going to add the fragrance. Mostly, like I said, this is just to help me because I need this to come together quick. I need this to not take 30 minutes of mixing because of just not feeling well. That smells really good. I like that one. Okay. And then, let's mix this in. But instead, like I said, if you can infuse oil with flowers or something, to make your soap. If you want, you can do that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and dump in the lye water, and this goes in. And then the way you would, and then you're going to mix this, okay? And you're going to mix this until this solidifies. And it might, hopefully it'll be quick because, well, it solidifies, it gets really, really thick. You want it like pudding maybe. And you can see how the lye is making this green kind of morph, and that's fine. A lot of times they'll morph and then they'll change back again. Okay, and you can kind of tell like where there's light and dark sections. I'm trying to get this out of the way. There we go. There's like the light and dark swirls. Well, maybe not. The camera's kind of. There we go. Can you see that swirl that's in there? The light and dark sections are where the oil is starting to come together with the lye solution. Um, I had something else I needed to tell you. Probably should have used rose. That would already be solid right now. Or lilac. Lilac's another good one if you want solid soap. Jeez. And a lot of times when you color your soaps and they look really bad, like, well, not bad, like the color change. A lot of times after they solidify, they go back to the previous color. So we will see if that happens. Let me see what you guys are saying. So Stacy's saying, her cat started this new thing. After he gets treats, he wants more. He will lay down on the floor and cry like he's hurt and can't move, and hopes he'll give him more treats. Right, I know, because you all know that if the cat is dying, the first thing it needs is treats, not a vet visit. It's always treats. It solves everything. Oh, you like the color, Lorna? Thank you. It's a really, really pretty color. I used to use it a lot for Christmas soaps. What about pine tree fragrances? Yeah, I've used I had excuse me. I've had a couple of soaps. There was one I know I might even have one left. I don't know, but it was real pretty. It had like layers of green. It was meant to look like like if you're looking uphill at a forest or whatever, and there's like a star. That one was really pretty. That had pine scents. I've used like I have like a balsam pine fragrance that I use. They're really popular around Christmas time. They smell great. There's a lot of things that you can put in soap. I wonder. I don't know. I don't know if that'd be smart. I was thinking, wonder if you could put things like resin. Although you can put pine tar in soap. People put pine tar in soap all the time. It has to be processed a certain way. There's two different main processes with pine tar. I think there's one where it's like the um the furnace they're using is like enclosed, and another one is not. And I forget the exact details, but I have to go look it up again. It's been years since I looked into it, but I actually have got the pine tar, and I've been wanting to make the soap for ages, and it's just been on the list of things to do, and I just haven't done it yet. Okay, so see how this is coming together and it's starting to thicken, and you can kind of tell because like you can draw. Um, it's called trace, where you can like trace your names in theory in the soap. See how it's leaving. You anyways, and I can feel the resistance now. So, oh boy. So, anyways, this is coming together. But anyway, so oh, that's right. I remember what I was going to tell you. So, as far as like calculating the soap, like the oil to lye ratio and all that, and the water and everything, a really good website to use right now while you have the chance to do it is called Soap Calc, SOAPCALC. Google that, and they'll give you like this calculator thing. It's like a one-page calculator. You choose the different oils that you want that you think you're going to be using in your soap, and you choose um, the amount of water. So I usually just leave it at the default for just calculating like the lye and stuff. Just leave it at the default, and then you can view the recipe, and it'll show you. It'll open up like a new tab, and it'll show you how much oil, how much water, how much lye, and everything else. And you can also adjust the super fat. So, like I was saying before, if you want to do pure coconut oil, you're going to need like a 20% super fat. Okay, I think this is safe to pour, so I'm going to go ahead and, well, yeah. But anyways, you can adjust the super fat to 20%, so that way when it calculates the recipe for you, you will get, yeah, this is like almost custard, green custard. Anyways, it'll calculate that all for you, so you'll know exactly how much of everything to use. And like I said, I recommend coming up with a couple different recipes of oils that you think you'll have available, because you know what happens if you can't get that one oil for some reason. Um, so maybe do um, one with like coconut oil, one with olive oil, one with whatever, like lard. Animal fats are really good because pigs can grow anywhere, and you can. And I apologize if anybody here doesn't want to hear about animal farming, but in the reality of the situation, if that's all you have, and you're going to eat the meat, you're going to use the whole animal. You save that fat, you can render it down. So you just boil the fat in water until it separates the fat from all the other bits. And then you take the fat out of there, and like you can let it cool, it'll solidify into a nice little block for you. And you can use that to make soap. So I would suggest making a couple different recipe calculations. You can print them out, and put them someplace safe. And that way, whatever oils you happen to have available, you can make a soap based on that. And for one person, um, this is a 1 pound block of soap, and I still have a little bit left over, which I shouldn't be babbling. I should be putting it in something, I guess. Let me. I'll use the famously stained mold here. Let me just dust it out real quick. Anyway, excuse me. But if you have multiple recipes, then whatever oils you have available, you will be able to make something. And this 1 pound block for one person will last a few months, especially if you let it cure. Because that's the thing. Once the soap is cut um, into bars, you need to set it aside in a dry place, if possible, to let it cure. If you don't have like a dry place, or like if you have high humidity where you live or whatever, it's just going to take longer. But I recommend, in a dry place, you want to go probably like 3 weeks. I'm sorry, not three, 6 weeks. Excuse me, 6 weeks to a month. If you live in a humid place, or if whatever, you might want to go longer than that. Probably instead of 6 to 8 weeks, you're probably going to want to go longer, um, like 8 weeks to 12 weeks or so. Let me just pour this in here, and then use it. So you may even want to just keep some soap in your storage that's already made. And if you make it often enough and just use up what you've already got, then, you know. And like I said, if you cure the soap, it's going to last longer. So if you were to cut this soap and like a week later start using it, it's gonna it's gonna dissolve pretty quick, and you'll need to make more soap probably within a few weeks. But if you let it cure, 1 bar of soap like this, depending on how often you use it, and if you keep it dry in between uses and things like that, you could probably get a couple months use out of that soap. So it dramatically increases the life of your soap bar. Okay, so because this top doesn't look like anything interesting, I'm going to go ahead and just use the same tool and just kind of put some texture on the top. And if you're in a situation where you don't have anything on hand that you can use to color your soaps, but maybe you want to tell them apart, like maybe you made a very, very cleansing type soap for doing dishes, and you don't want to use that on your body or whatever, you can do this. You can texture this top and say, okay, this is like bathing soap. And maybe the next one, you could take like a stick or a toothpick or something, and do like a swirly pattern on top. And then you'll know, okay, that one is for dishes. And then that way you can tell them apart, because, you're probably not going to have, unless you stock them, because these essentially last forever. The micas are going to last, maybe not literally forever, but they're going to last a long, long time. So you can either keep like maybe two, like, I don't know, red and blue or something. That way you can um, tell them apart what soap is for what. But if you don't have that available, than doing just a simple like texture like this on top will tell you. Because once you cut, if you can't, you could even write on there, but as soon as you cut it into bars, you won't be able to read it. So a texture is a really good way of telling your soaps apart if you can't get a hold of any color. Let me see. Animals for soap, yeah. Lard is a very popular soap ingredient because it actually makes a very these are vegan soaps, but like lard makes a lovely soap for your skin. It's very very nice, very cleansing, and it makes a very very hard bar of soap. Very hard, like it'll feel like a brick, like a rock. And as you wash with it, it'll soften the corners a little bit. But yeah, it's an excellent way to make soap if that's all you have, especially. I use this. How sad. Oh, poor Zooey. No. Let's see. People have come up with a lot of creative soap ingredients. I don't know if I'd want to put any part of my cat in it though. Term, yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, even like if there's like a war or something, and you just don't have access to the luxuries that you're used to, or just you can't maybe like in COVID when nobody could get toilet paper. If there's a situation where nobody can get soap, um, being able to make your own is kind of a relief, just so that you at least have that. As long as you can get a hold of fat somehow or oils, you can use them to hurl at the zombies. I don't think zombies like to be clean. That might work. Zooey taking it for the team. I don't think he agreed to any of this. But yeah, so that is it. That is the prepper soap. Um, again, I took some liberties here. I'd added color and used a fragrance. You may not have access to those things. That's okay. And just remember that if you are going to add a fragrance to your soap, things like perfume, cologne, stuff like that will not work. Colognes and perfume are mostly alcohol, and it can actually, make things less good for your soap in some situations. So, and it'll also distort the fragrance in most cases. You want to use things like you can use some essential oils if you can get a hold of those. You can use fragrance oils if you can get a hold of those. And a lot of fragrance oils, again, they'll last at least a year in storage. Um, and essential oils, depending on how they're stored, can lose their potency and things like that. So, just kind of look up the ones, do some research, look up the ones that last the longest, and go that route if you're gonna want to fragrance your soaps at all. Yeah, Ian, the alcohol can ruin the soap. I mean, alcohol in soap isn't always the best, but yeah. So what we'll do is I will either cut the soap for Thursday, or we will do another live. And let me get this headset off. It just depends on if I'm able to do it. I will figure something out, and we will cut the soap so you can see how it turned out on the inside. And then I'm hoping I can go to doing the Prince, the frog Prince soap that I had wanted to do. Maybe we'll do the pine tar soap. That could be considered another pepper soap, possibly, if you are making pine tar. If you're working a lot with animals, they use pine tar is used on like horse hooves and things like that. So you might actually have access to that if somebody is caring for animals. Um, and pine tar soap has a lot of benefits, like it gets you clean, which is legally all I can say is that it'll get you clean. But you can look that up on your own, and that's why I'm kind of being vague about certain things. I cannot tell you certain things like legally about soap other than they can get you clean. But if you want to look up the benefits of pine tar soap on your own, definitely do that. Um, and that will, by the way, the pine tar soap, as soon as you add the pine tar to the soap, it becomes solid in seconds. So you literally have to get it in the mold before it becomes solid in the container. Um, so yeah, that's a really good one if you don't want to mix a lot. Now we need zombie soap. That's a good idea. Maybe around Halloween time, I can make some anti-zombie projectiles. Yeah, the pine tar soap. Also, the pine tar soap, according to everybody who's made it, because I have all the stuff. It's sitting right. I can see it on my shelf right there. I just haven't made it yet. But according to everybody who has made it, it smells horrible, which probably means it won't bother me. They suggest having separate pine tar tools and containers so that the smell doesn't transfer to your other soaps. But after the soap solidifies and you go to like cut it and you like let it cure, that smell dissipates and it doesn't smell nearly as bad. So yeah, we'll find out as soon as I make that soap. I'm kind of excited. So um, Anyways, I will let you guys go. I'm gonna go rest my voice, and hopefully I'll be back Thursday. If not, it'll be Monday, and that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to commit to Mondays until I'm fully healed. And if you guys have any suggestions of any future soaps to make, like this one, for example, anything, because this was a suggestion by Ian. Any other suggestions you could think of, leave them in the comments or leave them in the chat, because I love to make your suggestions. This is the most fun way for me to make soap. So I look forward to see you guys later. And thank you for hanging out with me. Have a great day. And please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'll talk to you later.